My hot tea gets cold, my cold tea gets hot. Hello, welcome to the Crochet Cakes YouTube channel. My name is Clarissa and it is once again time for our monthly crafty wrap-up. Today, of course, we're going to be wrapping up all our makes for the month of August, and if you feel so inclined, I hope that you also share what makes you've been working up during the month of August with me in the comments section below. Now, we have a bit of a hefty little crafty chat ahead of us, so grab your drink of choice. I'm recording this in the afternoon, right after lunch, so I have a nice big glug of iced tea, which is now tepid, as in a little bit warm, because I was using it to record a reel, so it's been made for probably an hour. Still, London fog. So like I was saying, there is a bit of a hefty episode ahead of us, and also a very, very important announcement more towards the end of this crafty chat. Right, let us begin with letting the dog in. Okay, Ichiro is in and we are ready to begin our little crafty chat with some finished makes. I wasn't recording. I just talked for 30 minutes straight and I was not recording. Okay. Let's go again. Let's start with finished makes. I have 3 that I'm going to show you, and one of them is crochet, 2 of them are sewing. And inserting overhead shots here of the sewing items because they are some gorgeous fabric boxes or baskets. These were made, sewn, following Ellie of Craft House Magic tutorial. It was very wonderful, very detailed. However, I did find out that when I bought fabrics, I just bought them because ooh, pretty colors, but I do not actually have any coordinating fabrics in my stash. It was very, very hard to find fat quarter sizes of anything that I could use to make these baskets. Now they are far from perfect because I did not quilt enough to offer stability to the baskets, but I still love them, and I especially love that they are housing all my leftover yarns in a coordinated manner because, I mean, as you already saw, the green basket holds my leftover green yarns or mini skeins that are green, whatever have you. It's green, it's in this basket. Obviously this basket is not big enough to hold some of my remaining leftovers, but nonetheless, I am quite happy, and I highly recommend that if you have fat quarters and you want to try sewing, try this one. It's very easy, very simple, and I don't know what else to say. I just absolutely love it. It was a wonderful tutorial, and it's a very lovely, useful item that you can use to store yarn like I'm using here, or you could use to house gifts, do gift boxes, gift baskets, whatever you want. I think this episode is going to be a mishmash of things because I don't know what I already recorded and what I didn't. Okay. Next up, the page turner shawl. Now, you already saw this finished once, but I frogged it all back and remade it because I just wasn't 100% happy with the finished item. I think there are things that I can tweak just a little bit to make this up to my own standards, right? So, what can I tell you about the page turner shawl? Number 1 is that she is going to be a paid for PDF pattern. And as always, the pattern is going to include a video tutorial for the centerpiece of the shawl, but also kind of like a guideline on how we're building up from that center outward to create our V. Second thing, you're gonna need, let's say 250 grams of sport weight yarn. For this design, I have used Heatherly from We Crochet, so check your sport weight yardage against that provided by Heatherly. And thirdly is that she's beautiful, and the centerpiece is going to be gorgeous cabling. And I did the cables right at the center because this was completely inspired by reading, hence the page turner shawl.
Oh, and thank you, Kaylin, for naming this shawl.
But more than that, it was inspired by that one scene in The Mummy where Evie is putting away books and we see some gorgeous spines of these supposed, you know, ancient tomes that she's handling. So I wanted the spine to be center front so that when we fold the shawl, it kind of feels like we are closing a book. And that little tiny itsy bitsy detail made me so, so, so happy. In order to crochet up this beauty, not only will you need 250 grams of sport weight yarn, you will also need 3 different hook sizes. We're going to be working with a 3.75 millimeter crochet hook for the center, a 4 millimeter crochet hook for the body / wings of the shawl, and then a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook for the rib border. If you are going to be using any other weight of yarn to crochet up this shawl, please be aware that you should at least change the hooks that I'm suggesting by 0.5, depending on the weight you're going for. So if you're going for a DK weight shawl, then definitely go up to a 4 millimeter for the spine, a 4.5 for the body, and then a 5 millimeter for the border. Those are my suggestions. Now, because you know that I cannot leave well enough alone with any of my designs, I was showing Mom the completed page turner shawl and walking her through the little changes that I did, and she mentioned that she thought I was crocheting like a wrap kind of rectangular shawl, and I thought, well, I definitely could. So this brings us up to works in progress and what I'm going to be calling chapter 2. This shawl wrap pattern is going to be called chapter 2 because it is like a second version of the page turner shawl. And I've already done a little swatch. The swatch is using the same yarn as the page turner shawl. The only difference is that this time we're only going to be working with a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook. And I am so excited. She is going to be wide enough to, like I said, wrap yourself around and really cozy up in. I'm looking to crochet up a sample that's 22 inches wide, and I think it's going to be 60 inches long. I'll need to double check my gauge and all the math because I already did all that, and I even started the shawl, well, the wrap. And by started, I mean I've just got tiny little itsy bitsy teeny winnies little strip here. So it's cast on, and I've done 4 rows, I think, and I'm very excited to keep working on that project. Obviously, because I started this chapter 2 scarf so late, you know, the inspiration came so late, it's not going to be released at the same time as the page turner shawl, but it will be released as a kind of like bundle / collection, and also as an individual pattern when it is completely written up. Those will of course be available through Ravelry, and then maybe as a couple of months pass and I am 100% happy with how it's doing and I've received positive feedback on it, it will go up on Etsy. Okay, so those are the 2 works in progress, 2 accessories works in progress that I'm progressing on. But I also have a garment to share with you, because would I be me if I was not crocheting at least 1 garment to share? I think not. But also I have 4 garments to share. The first of which is the Chasing Rabbits top. Now I'm crocheting this other sample because this is going to be a present for someone that may or may not watch this channel, I'm not sure. But as always, I'd like to work up more than 1 sample of my garments to show what areas you can adjust and to show how the project behaves in different yarns if I have that available to me. This time what I'm choosing to modify for this Chasing Rabbits top is the yoke. I am not doing as many lace rows in the yoke because I know that the lace can go a little bit lower and not everyone wants to have all that décolletage on display. I think, honey, if you got it, flaunt it. But hey, I just want you to know that there are options for you. The pattern is a recipe. They're more like guidelines, you know? You can change it here, change it there. But I will say, don't say the pattern doesn't work if you changed a lot of things, because sometimes we do that. Sometimes we think, I'm gonna change this completely, and then the pattern doesn't work for us. you know, that's not the designer's fault. They designed it to work a certain way, and if we change too much of it, it may not work that way. Okay, so that caveat aside, I'm not really changing a lot. As I said, I'm only eliminating 2 or 3 rows from the lace section and then continuing on working the top as normal. By the way, the Chasing Rabbits top will be releasing on the 12th of September if all goes well. I've got testers really chugging away, and I just want to say, if you test for me or if you've tested for me before, I never expect you to finish the item. My expectation is solely that you give me feedback on the pattern, and that if we're working top down, that you at least get past the yoke, because I want to confirm stitch counts. I want to confirm that I've altered the pattern enough to work with different bust shapes, because I'm part of the itty bitty titty committee, okay? And I know, fully understand that you have to make designs very different for the more endowed women out there, or, you know, female presenting people out there. They need more endowment. I get it. So I get it. And that's, what was I saying? Right, that my purpose in testing is to really confirm that the way that I've designed a garment works for the most amount of bodies that it can. That's what I was going for. So barring any catastrophes, the Chasing Rabbits top will be releasing on the 2nd week of September, and I am so happy to be bringing her to you. She will have 2 video tutorials. One is a video guide for how we work up the yoke, and the other one is, of course, a stitch pattern that is already available for you to view on this channel. There are also pictures included and one very small chart, not for the whole pattern, but just for like the beginning 3 rows of the yoke, so that you can get an idea of where your stitches are supposed to match. So far, the PDF for this is going to be about 20 pages long, because I also included a little bit of a checklist for how to work up row 1 or round 1 of the Chasing Rabbits top, because I think that is the most challenging round to work up. Once you kind of see where your pieces are all supposed to fit, you can just go on from there. But I really want you to have all the tools necessary for you to like move forward with this pattern. So it is 20 pages, but don't let that intimidate you. Okay, so those are the works in progress, but I do have one more work in progress to share with you, and that is remember in the last crafty chat where I showed a basket full of yarn, and I had this gorgeous green colorway that I bought from We Crochet. It's in the Baroque Vintage color Fern. Well, I finally moved my hook and cast it on. Now, I am very happy. I'm super happy with how this project, I've designed it, I've envisioned it. So far, it's working up exactly like I envisioned it, and I am very happy. I want this project to be cozy, simple, a little brain on, but once you get used to it, it's brain off until we get to the sleeves. I haven't quite figured those out, but then again, I'm not at the sleeve portion yet, and before mathing all the sleeves out, I do like to at least do half of a sleeve first, to just make sure that everything that I want to include will work. And for this sweater, I'm envisioning 2 panels, and then we are just going to seam the sleeve. We're going to work it up flat, and then we are going to seam all along the bottom of the sleeve and then down the sides. I want this garment to be a fun, simple construction. I do not think it'll be available for 2025, just because I have to work it up, I have to write it up, and then it has to go through testing. So either it will be for January or later on during 2026. And it is crazy to me that I am already thinking of 2026 patterns. And actually, when I said that to Mom, I actually said 2025, and she's like, you know, we're in 2025. I'm like, oh, right, it's not just been a fever dream. And as you saw, the pattern is living in the bag that we sewed last time. Just little tote bag. I'm so happy. I'm so happy with that little tote bag. Okay. I'm gonna pause here and I'm gonna check my notes to see what I'm missing. I know I'm missing something. I got it. The other thing, I'm only gonna share a little piece of it. It features pumpkin granny squares, and I'm only sharing a little bit of a piece of this item because there is a whole vlog dedicated to it. And you know what, Clarissa, what's with the mystery? This is going to be a blanket, okay? And there's a whole vlog dedicated to it that I'm working up as I work up the pumpkin granny square. Because I feel like I bit off a lot more than I could chew because I knew that time-wise this blanket was going to take between 30 hours just to stitch up the squares, and then let's add another, you know, 10 hours of generosity for the border and weaving in the ends, blocking, all of that. So the entire project was going to be about 40 hours of work, and I thought, wow, that should not take a long time. It has. Mostly because my little magpie brain keeps crocheting up these granny squares and it's going on all these ideas, okay? Featuring granny stitches and sweaters and shawls and socks and so many things. I want to do them all. And speaking of granny stitches, the other two projects that I have working down the pipeline that will hopefully be two completely free here on YouTube tutorials for garments are two granny stitch sweaters. I know you all absolutely loved the granny stitch sweater series that I did, the raglan granny square, and I'm so glad that you did love that tutorial, but I know I can make 100 times better. 100 times better. So that is what we're aiming for these two granny stitch patterns. Will I be able to do them both? I don't know, but at least one of them will definitely be up during Christmas because I want you to have like a little selfish make, okay? Something easy to pick up and put down that you're making for yourself, or, you know, hey, if you're feeling generous, you can make it for somebody else. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to provide a little cozy space for you to come in, retreat into a little bubble, and just stitch away, okay? That is what I'm here for, and also for inspiration. And also, if you've got questions, I'm happy to answer if I have the answer. And if not, we can learn together. And you're saying, Clarissa, okay, all this chat about granny stitches, show me what you got. Yeah, I will do that, okay? So, the one that I have right accessible to me right now is it's going to be a top-down V-stitch raglan sweater. Now, this is not completely in granny stitches, but, you know, and granny is very predominant nonetheless. Boop. So, if we put it on, I just ran out of yarn, okay? For the sample that I was testing to see if my stitch count was going to work, I ran out of yarn. So this is going to be a V. I didn't want it to be too deep, but I also didn't want it to be very modest. I wanted it to be somewhere in between. So I'm thinking that 2 more rounds and I would join this V. So what I'm going to call this sweater, I don't know yet, but it features gorgeous stitching and I'm going to crochet it up. This one I'm going to crochet it up in cotton because since it's going to have a V, I kind of want it to be more Florida fall friendly than winter, you know? And the other one already has a name and everything. It's using the same stitch counts. Sorry, not the same stitch counts. It's using the same stitches, but it is a different. This one is meant to, it's the Granny Crew sweater because we work it up as a raglan, but the way we work up the beginning of the neckline and the yoke is going to produce a crew neck neckline, which I'm so excited about. So we have the Granny Crew we have the Granny Crew sweater, and then I don't know, should we call her just Granny number 6? Technically she'd be Granny number 7 because this is 6, that's 7. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, sorry, let me Let me explain, okay? What I'm referring to is the fact that the first pattern that I released this year was the Granny number 5 top, because it was the 5th granny stitch pattern that I had worked up with you guys, but it was also the V's included in the Granny number 5 top are Roman numeral 5, right? So that was Granny number 5, and I'm kind of inclined to either name these Granny number 6 and Granny number 7, or the Granny crew sweater, and then the Granny, what was it? Granny pop sweater, like ring pops. Do they still make ring pops? Okay. These were all the craft chats that I had to share with you, crochet wise and sewing wise. I do have a lot of other ideas, as I said. Like, I don't know, my brain's kind of been itching to cast on a dress, and in my head she's already built. I already know exactly how I want to make her. But do I have enough time? Because of course, not only do I want to do the dress, but I want to work her up in fingering weight. Obviously, I'm not going to have enough yarn because I only have 250 grams. We all know that's not enough to crochet up a fingering weight dress. Like, it's not even enough to crochet up a fingering weight sweater. Now, towards the very beginning of the episode, I said I had some news. And don't worry, it's crochet related news, okay? It's not life altering news. Well, you may feel, I feel like it's a little bit life altering, but let me explain, okay? When I started the Crochet Cakes podcast all the way back in 2017, I believe, I was looking to foster a safe, respected place where people would, a safe, respectful place where people would feel open to sharing their crafty journey, where people would want to join in and chat about everything that we were making, and just foster a sense of community for those of us that felt that we didn't have a thriving community near us at that time. So that was why I started the Crochet Cakes podcast, and I've continued making it from a bi-weekly podcast into a monthly podcast, but it is still with the same intent behind it, to foster a sense of community, to provide ideas, companionship, what have you. However, I think that this version of the podcast, this show and tell, me showing you my designs and telling you about them, is no longer serving us to build and foster those relationships. So not effective immediately, but down the line, towards the end of 2025, I will be retiring the Crochet Cakes podcast as it currently is. Now, I am open to hear your thoughts, your ideas, and your opinions on this, of course, because I think we should discuss, you know, it's not just my channel. It was created to, as I said, build a safe, respectful place for other makers, and I want to hear what you have to say about that. And I want to be able to, moving forward, build a channel, build content that really speaks to you and that makes you feel valued, seen, and heard. Okay, so that was a decision that I did not come to lightly, because I have met so many wonderful people through this YouTube space, through this podcast specifically. And I've learned so much about video editing, scripting, and just being myself in front of a camera that I cannot thank you enough for. And even more than that, just thank you for always being here and wanting to share your time with me. Now, just because I'm thinking of retiring this podcast as the show and tell version that it is, doesn't mean that I'm gonna stop making videos for YouTube. That's not it at all. Like, I still want to continue with the craft vlogs because I know you absolutely enjoy watching those, and I enjoy making those. And I'm also going to continue uploading tutorials here and there, as well as the paid for tutorials that appear in the designs that I make. So that content, the craft vlogs, the tutorials, those are not going anywhere. I hope that these were not life-altering news, and like I said, I'm not retiring the podcast entirely. I'm kind of like putting it into the compost bin and I'm going to be checking in every so often to see if a seed has sprouted and what the show and tell version of this podcast wants to turn into. And I will, of course, still be sharing what I'm making through short form content through the Discord server, and I don't know, maybe even Ko-fi again. Ko-fi is kind of like a Patreon. It's a space where you support creators, and I can upload specific blogs to Ko-fi, all that stuff. Right now, I just have it as a tip jar, and I would like to do something else with that space. I don't know. Like I said, I'm gonna keep looking at that compost pile and see what's gonna be popping up. Whew, that was a lot, or at least it felt like a lot, because I was very nervous to announce this, and I still am nervous, which is why I kind of filmed the episode standing up so I could move around and get rid of some of that restless energy. But anyway, thank you so much for being here with me today, for sharing your crafty time, for sharing your thoughts, your opinions, and your energy. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, that you found a little bit of inspiration, and do tell me which of the projects I mentioned are you most excited to see. And don't forget that if you want to keep in touch, you can check in daily on the Crochet Cakes Discord server. You can check the community posts here on the YouTube channel. And of course, you can also check in on Instagram. You can subscribe to the weekly newsletter. There's a lot of places we can keep this crafty conversation going. Thank you so much for being you. Thank you for being here. And I will see you next time. I do think I'm going to do a crafty chat in September. Like I said, I'm going to be kind of like eliminating them towards the end of the year. So think November, possibly like October, November, December. We're gonna be weaning. No, that's like a weird word. Okay, let's end this here. Happy crafting. Bye.